Hello and welcome to From Digital to D&D. In this series, a character from fiction is taken and given a usable stat block for you to use in your games of Dungeons & Dragons. For those of you unaware, each episode of this series will be broken down into the following sections. The character introduction, where I attempt to explain the background of the character. The feature breakdown, where I point out what aspects of the character I'll be attempting to convert. The stat block, where the stat block is shown off and certain elements are discussed. And finally the plot hooks, where I explain possible uses for the character in your games of D&D. Naturally, any character that features in this series belongs to their respective owners. Today's episode is special as it covers one of my favourite villains in all of fiction, hailing from the Whoniverse. Without further ado, let us look at the greatest threat to existence, the conquerors of the universe, the supreme beings, the Daleks. The Daleks first appeared in 1963, and from their first appearance, they struck fear into the hearts of many. Though their design may appear silly, these aliens showed an unparalleled level of xenophobia and the power to enforce it. The Daleks were born as a result of a long and bloody war on the planet Skara. On the planet lived two humanoid species known as the Kaleds and Thals, who had been in a global war with each other for centuries. When the war first started, both sides had access to advanced technology, but the many years of destruction forced them to use more primitive weapons, as it was all both sides had left. The war went nuclear, but continued to rage afterwards, even pushing through chemical and biological weaponry. The conditions of the planet caused many of its remaining people to mutate. One of these mutations was the Daleks, though they were different from the other mutants. The Kaled scientist Davros had performed countless experiments and concluded that the entity that would later be known as the Dalek mutant was the endpoint of the Kaled evolution. Davros held the belief that the only way to bring peace to the universe was to bring it under one rule, the Daleks' rule. He created specialized travel machines, also called Dalek casings, and placed the mutants inside them. Each mutant had been genetically hardwired to have all emotions stripped away except for two. The greatest emotion was hatred, a vile hatred for all things that were not pure Dalek. This hatred made them want nothing more to kill and dominate lesser creatures, which in their eyes were all other creatures. The other emotion was joy, specifically the joy of killing. The joy of killing their enemies. Once inside the casing, the Dalek had access to tools and weaponry meant to help them in their task. Naturally, they turned on their creator and began their crusade across reality. The Daleks were cunning, manipulative geniuses who had access to technology beyond almost all other beings. The preferred method of preparing a planet for invasion was to knock meteorites into the planet before then introducing a deadly plague. Even if they had enough weapons and troops to take the planet, they still opted to cripple it, to make the people suffer. Only the ancient races of the Time Lords and the Immortal Eternals surpassed their technology. They cracked time travel with ease and only continued to improve. Countless planets and species fell to the Daleks. The rare few they didn't kill befell a worse fate, being forced to work for the Daleks as the word that rhymes with raves and starts with an S. Only one thing could ever stop them, the Time Lord known as the Doctor. Due to being a warrior race, Daleks were almost always at war or planning for one, which let them evolve into the ultimate warrior race. They grew so powerful that the peaceful watchers of the Time Lords foresaw a future where the Daleks succeeded in their mission, becoming the dominant life form. Breaking their vow to only watch, they tried to stop the Daleks from being born, but this failed. This fact was learned by the Daleks, and after Skara was destroyed, the Daleks declared war on the Time Lords. The last great Time War had begun. This war was so devastating that all of existence hung in the balance on several occasions. Time was wounded as history was constantly altered. Due to the temporal nature of the war, there were several moments where the Daleks were almost destroyed only to bounce back and almost destroy the Time Lords. Eventually, however, the Time War neared its end, and worst of all, the Daleks were winning. The Daleks had improved their technology so greatly that the Time Lords were on the verge of extinction. Only thanks to the intervention of the Doctor were the Daleks stopped and the Time Lords saved, but the Daleks still managed to survive what should have been their extinction. Crawling back from Oblivion's edge, the Daleks rose again and continued on their mission. Though the Time War was over, the Daleks would threaten reality countless times, their greatest creation being the reality bomb, a weapon that would destroy all of existence, even parallel worlds. Though they would be stopped at their peaks, the Daleks still brought death to untold trillions, and their ability to travel in time meant they were impossible to destroy, as at least one Dalek would survive and one Dalek could threaten the universe. Though they may look silly, the Daleks are still one of the greatest threats in the universe. Daleks are special, as the entity that others see is just a machine casing that houses the real Dalek inside. This casing is essentially a personalised battle tank for the Dalek, with a vast array of weaponry and features all meant to help the Dalek be a more effective killer. Its most basic feature is the life support that helps keep the Dalek alive, as well as offering it better sight and mobility. Early casings required an external power source, but later iterations are able to function with just the static electricity of the environment. For simplicity's sake, I'll be looking at the features modern Daleks have. The Dalek can glide across the floor, and if the terrain isn't possible to cross, they can engage the boosters below to fly. Whilst they may be slow on the ground, they can fly at high speeds with impressive agility. The alloy that comprises the casing is called Dalekanium, a highly durable alloy meant to help the Dalek soak in ambient energy whilst also keeping it safe. Most modern day firearms can't even scratch the metal, and the plates of the casing are thick. Along the bulk of the casing are several orbs that serve as sensors that help the Dalek sense its surroundings. The middle section of the casing holds the two main appendages of the Dalek which it can swap out. Most Daleks have the same appendages though, which are a manipulator arm and an extermination cannon. The manipulator arm resembles a plunger, but it allows the Dalek to interact with its environment by picking up objects, interfacing with technology, and even as a weapon that can extract the brainwaves of victims. The primary weapon of a Dalek is its extermination cannon, which fires a ray of deadly energy. In order to reload the weapon, the Dalek must say exterminate, though it can think it if it wants to. Most Daleks don't, as they know the battle cry strikes fear into their enemies. As an energy weapon, the Dalek could control the output of the ray. They would most often do this so that the ray would kill the target, but not before causing them great pain. But if they needed to, the Dalek could use it to disintegrate targets or cause explosions. The dome of the casing holds the eye stalk of the Dalek, which it uses to see, and a pair of headlights that help show the Dalek is speaking as well as serving as translators. Each segment of the Dalek is able to move independently on its axis. That's not all the casings offer, however. During the Time War, Daleks developed an energy shield. This shield is able to absorb most impacts. Physical projectiles like bullets disintegrate and energy attacks are absorbed. This made most Daleks immune to basic attacks, and only powerful weaponry could pierce through. Melee weapons had an easier time bypassing the shield, but if something came into contact with the casing, the Dalek could cause it to combust. Remember, these are the features of the base Dalek. Some Daleks could gain access to specialised casing with additional features. Some could be as simple as swapping the manipulator arm for something different, such as a blowtorch. Others could have casings with only one appendage of a heavy cannon, these special weapons Daleks being a form of living artillery. High-ranking Daleks often had access to personal emergency teleporters, letting them engage in an emergency temporal shift. This would shunt them through time and space, and whilst the Dalek could somewhat influence their destination, it could only do so much. This was for emergencies only and often had dire side effects. This customizability of the Daleks make them fearsome, but that is just the shell. The entity within the casing is a different story. The Dalek mutant is far less dangerous without the casing, but it isn't totally helpless. Resembling squids, the mutant has several tentacles it can use to move and interact with the environment. They lack a mouth, however, and without the aid of their casing, will perish. Though their bodies are frail, the mind of a Dalek is incredible. They are highly intelligent, which is amplified by the path web. This hive mind is a database that holds the collective knowledge of every Dalek. Anything and everything the species has seen is stored here and can be accessed by every Dalek. With all this power at their disposal, it isn't surprising that the Daleks almost won the Time War. Before I begin, I split the Dalek and the Dalek mutant into two start blocks for simplicity. As I mentioned at the beginning, the Daleks are one of my favourite villains and I loved them ever since I first saw them in 2005 as a child. Maybe I was too young to see their silliness, but I found them a terrifying species. You're welcome to look through both sheets at your own pace. There are some areas I'd like to highlight, starting with the most important part. The Dalek has an energy shield that negates any damage dealt to it that is less than 20 points, with the exception of force and psychic damage. This means an attack or spell has to deal at least 20 damage to hurt the Dalek. If it's incapacitated, however, the shield is compromised. This shield can even disintegrate projectiles that fail to deal damage unless the projectile is a magical item of rare or greater rarity. This trait alone makes the Dalek incredibly hard to hurt for lower levels. Those of you who have played Baldur's Gate know what this is like with the sturdy trait. The Dalek does have a weakness with its eye stalk. If an attack is specifically made against the eye stalk and manages to deal damage to it, the Dalek must succeed on a con save or be blinded until it succeeds on the saving throw. Due to being comprised of Dalekadium alloy, actually hitting the Dalek is somewhat difficult without special equipment or tools. Moving on to actions, the Dalek's main option is the Extermination Ray, which has a far range of up to 600 feet and deals 6 d12 plus 7 radiant damage. You could argue the ray should deal a different type of damage such as force or lightning, but the laser pistol of the gnome Ceramorph deals radiant damage. Regardless, this ray instantly kills a target and reduces it to 0 hit points. And that is just the base level. As a rechargeable action, the Dalek can shoot an empowered ray that explodes on impact or can disintegrate a target. The mutant lacks anything particularly exciting, but if allowed to live may come back to haunt the party. The most exciting part is how the sheet is just the base Dalek. With some variant features, you can alter the Dalek. The most notable option is the heavy cannon. This option replaces the extermination ray attack and removes the maximum extermination options. In its place is a powerful weapon that you can use to turn the Dalek into a special weapons Dalek. Some options even increase the challenge rating of the Dalek, such as the limited magic immunity, meaning even spellcasters will have trouble with the Dalek. There are some optional weaknesses in there as well to help make the Dalek easier for a lower level party, such as anti-magic susceptibility. These options mean you can run a Dalek in an encounter several times and have it be completely different. Daleks have been around for a decade now, and we've seen them in multiple roles they can fulfill in a game of D&D. The key difference will depend on how many Daleks are present. A lone Dalek experience is very different from a fleet of Daleks. Let's start with what you could do with a single Dalek by describing an adventure. The party have recently been employed by an astronomer wizard who has hired them to help them investigate the landing site of a meteorite. Upon reaching the crash site, they find a large metallic pod and not a chunk of rock. The astronomer asks the party to help them bring the sphere back to the tower, offering them a handsome payment upon completion. After the party have helped transport the sphere, the astronomer tells them they need a week to gather the gold and to come back. 1 week later, the party return only to find the astronomer on the ground and near death. They explained the pod contained a hostile creature that he managed to seal in a demiplane, but not before it hit him with some sort of energy weapon. They explain they are focusing on keeping it contained, but they cannot hold it forever, and if it escapes, it will wreak havoc. The party must delve into the demiplane and eliminate the creature before it escapes. I could see this idea working for a low to mid-level party. This adventure is meant to show the power of a single Dalek and the threat it can pose if it gets out. It can kill a city in a week. The party will have to act smart and fast to contain the threat by using whatever tools they can find. But I have another suggestion for an adventure that only uses a few Daleks, if you'll indulge me. A neighbouring kingdom was witness to a dazzling display of shooting stars, but some fell to the ground. Shortly after, people became afflicted with a deadly plague, one that threatens to spread and kill thousands. The party have been summoned to investigate the origin of the plague and find a cure, or at least stop its spread. Upon deeper investigation, a local lord has been acting odd, demanding obedience from the people and ignoring the plague. As the party investigate the noble, they find a strange contraption within the basement, a marvel of technology far beyond this world. As they investigate, they find the contraption is a communication and teleport hub that links to a vessel high above the planet. A squadron of around 5 Daleks has scouted this world out and is preparing it for invasion by a greater force once it's ready. The party need to find a way to stop the Daleks and destroy the ship before a greater number of them can be summoned. The Daleks may have stumbled upon this planet by chance, or have come here with a purpose, perhaps seeking a specific artifact or resource. Regardless, this group of Daleks will see millions die and simply watch from above. And finally, there is the option that could be the premise of an entire campaign: full planetary invasion. A full force, millions of Daleks, has descended from above with the goal of conquering the planet. The campaign could be a sort of XCOM-style adventure where the invasion is ongoing and the party is a part of the force, trying to defend the planet. Countless skirmishes with the Daleks and their underlings can occur as the invasion progresses. Perhaps the party must assemble the support of the outer planes to help drive the invaders back. Imagine having to travel to Avernus to convince Tiamat herself to lend the support of her chromatic dragons. Maybe the invasion force is so grand that the Daleks are laying siege to the other planes at the same time. The party can work their way through the adventure to a climax at the primary command vessel, where they meet the Dalek Supreme or maybe even the Emperor himself. Think of how the countless races of the world will react to a force greater than anything it has ever seen before. Devils and angels working side by side in the sky as they engage the endless swarm of the Daleks. Mind flayers piloting the Nautiloids to combat the saucers. That sounds really cool if you ask me. And with the customization options available, the Daleks can scale with the party. Starting off they deal with the minions such as mind control people, but then they find damaged Daleks still pushing on. But all these examples cover Daleks taking active and aggressive roles. What about a longer and more cunning scheme? Perhaps a few Daleks have been damaged and stranded on a planet and have come into contact with a kingdom. Knowing they cannot follow the desire to destroy, the Daleks instead manipulate the kingdom by posing as loyal envoys from the stars to come to help the people. They offer knowledge and technology to gain their trust, all the while preparing themselves. They could turn a peaceful kingdom into warmongers that start a war. This would allow the Daleks to operate with less observation and weaken their enemies. If they are not stopped, the Daleks will fully repair themselves and begin their conquest in the form of signalling the fleet or perhaps unleashing more Daleks they made in secret. Perhaps they have taken the people of the kingdom and performed genetic experiments on them, turning them into more Daleks. This sort of narrative helps demonstrate the cunning nature of the Daleks, that they are master manipulators despite their reputation. It also shows how far they will go. Of course, Daleks could fill more traditional roles in a Spelljammer setting as another faction with access to ships. Perhaps they've only just entered wild space and the factions of Spelljammer have to contend with this new superpower. And due to how old the Daleks are, you can use any variant from the different Dalek eras with some minor alterations. For example, early era Daleks won't have an energy shield, as that came as a result of the Time War. Despite being seen as a joke by many, the Daleks could truly be one of the most dangerous forces in the universe. But with that, we've reached the end of today's video. Before you head off, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hoped you managed to get something out of this. The stat block for the Dalek is available on D&D Beyond for free, and the link to it is in the description. I hope you all have a great day, and may your dice roll favourably. Goodbye for now.